can, no problem. But anyone that, if you will, and you want to really participate in the class, if you'll turn your camera on and also turn your chat on, we can make this class even more interesting. All right, it's 9 o'clock, and so you know, QuickBooks is changing. There's a lot of changes going on with QuickBooks 2022 when it come out right now, and the desktop version. There's two versions of QuickBooks. There's QuickBooks Desktop, and there's QuickBooks Online. And so I just recently have fell in love with QuickBooks Online. I've been trying to like it for like 10 years, and it's just not been up to speed, but it has finally made a turn, and it's really a good product. It's a lot more expensive than the desktop product, and so I can't really, usually in this class, it would be covering desktop only. We do part one, and then we do part two next week of covering desktop. But I have felt so in love with QuickBooks Online that I kinda am blending it into this teaching too. So how many people are, let me know in the chat, if you can turn chat on, how many people, what brought you to this class? Is it because you're using desktop, or you're using QuickBooks Online, or you haven't even bought the product? Can someone just in the chat, or even turn your mics on and just let me know, what brought you to this class? Some people are using desktop as a rookie, still green. Um,
Just learning, just trying to learn. Haven't bought it. You
haven't bought it yet?
No.
Okay, great. So this class is going to talk a little bit about QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, and like which product is best for you. And so really, it kind of depends on the type of business that you have. If you have a lot of transactions, your debit card, you're just using it like crazy, you're charging stuff, QuickBooks Online is probably the way to go, because all the transactions come feeding into QuickBooks. But you got to know what to do when they come feeding into QuickBooks. And so even for someone, a desktop user like me, it was a task to learn how to make QuickBooks Online work properly. But if you start off with QuickBooks Online, you don't have all that past history of QuickBooks Desktop, because they work totally different. They do the same things in that you're going to invoice people, and you're going to receive payments, and you're going to record deposits, but it's just done in a different way. I have the program to have QuickBooks Online on my husband's phone. A lot of people like QuickBooks Online because it is so mobile. You can use it on your phone. But the QuickBooks Online product is a subscription product. And so you have to decide which level of that subscription do I need. They've got Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. And every one of these are monthly subscriptions. And so the Simple Start starts at $25 a month. The Essentials is $50 a month. The Plus is $80 a month. And then the Advanced is $180 a month. So as you can see, that is very expensive, but it's got some really great features. Now, if you don't really have a lot of transactions that need to feed in and want to do QuickBooks more on a manual process, then I would say with QuickBooks Desktop. Because with QuickBooks Desktop, you can buy it for about $300. It just, in 2022, it became a one-year subscription. But for $300, it's a one-year subscription, and you don't pay anything else for the rest of the year. But it's more of a manual process. You have to like enter every transaction. It's not really true. There is some features that I could go out to my credit card and export all my transactions into a file and then import that file into QuickBooks Desktop. And so that's a way of getting a lot of transactions into your QuickBooks real quick. So let's see, I just want to get an idea of like what kind of students we got here. QuickBooks Online, okay, all right, help clients. I just updated to 2022. The one, Justin, that updated to 2022, are you desktop or QuickBooks Online? Probably desktop. Desktop is, like I say, there's a big cost difference in it, but I'm going to show you right now if, I think you're seeing my QuickBooks screen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you. Who is my buddy there? Mark. Thanks, Mark. Shaking your head. So, desktop. So this is the home screen of QuickBooks Desktop. And desktop is a lot easier for me to teach than QuickBooks Online. But desktop is split into 5 sections. You've got your vendor section. Let me see if I can get my mouse up here. My vendor section. And those are the people that I pay. Vendors, I pay vendors. But customers pay me. This is customers right here where it says customers. And if I click on that icon right there, I can see my customer list right now. We're looking at I'm in a sample company that all the QuickBooks Desktop companies come with a sample company that you can play around with that you're not really messing up any data with. Now, another big selling point of using desktop as opposed to QuickBooks Online, in QuickBooks Desktop, you can have as many companies as you want. You know, you can close this company and then open another company. You can set up and they run totally separate. And you can close one and then open one. So you can have multiple companies running in your QuickBooks Pro Plus 2022. They used to call it QuickBooks Pro, but now they've come out with Plus. It means that it's a 1-year subscription. If you have QuickBooks Pro, you have a 3-year subscription. 2022 is when they're making the change. It's going from a 3-year product to a 1-year product. And so the word plus on the end of it means it is a 1-year product. Every year you would have to go back and get another desktop product every year. That's kind of unlike the QuickBooks Online where it's a monthly subscription. You pay that monthly subscription year after year. But let me just go back to the home page. So you got your vendors you pay, the customers pay you, and the employee section. And if you want employees, if you want to run payroll in QuickBooks, it looks like it's kind of built in, but it is an additional cost. You have to have a payroll license, which is a 1-year payroll license for all of these icons down here under employees to show up. If I didn't pay for that license, I wouldn't even see this whole section here that says employees, okay? So there's 5 sections. And so the other section up here is your company. Your company is what drives QuickBooks. There's 2 main parts to it. It's your chart of accounts and your items and services. And so there was a handout that you should have. If you don't have the handout, maybe if you put it in the chat, maybe Lily at the college could email that handout to you. If you maybe just put your email if you need that handout sent to you. I'm sorry, I was supposed to mention this. Jeff Newell, he usually is the college director of the Small Business Center, and he is usually here, but he couldn't make it this morning. And so he had told me to please let everyone know that this class is sponsored by CBCC Small Business Center. I'm sure all of you probably know that, but he wanted me to mention that because they're really great and they put on all these classes and everything. And we had like 30 people sign up for this QuickBooks class. And it looks like we have about 25. Looks like about 25 people are on. But anyway, Jeff Newell is a great help. And I hope, Lily, do you know Shane would like to get the handouts if you could possibly email them to them. If we can't get them to you this morning, Shane, we will have Jeff will send them. He'll see this chat, I believe. Lily, you might want to write down that email just to make sure they get it. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit scattered here. It's kind of weird doing it without Jeff, and then also trying to mix in QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. But I know we've got people here that are in the online product and the desktop product. So I'm going to kind of show you how they both work. So you've got your company section, which is your chart of accounts, and your items and services. Your items and services are the things that go on your invoices. If I click on items and services, I can see all these different items. These are things that are going to go on my QuickBooks. And don't let this overwhelm you. In a minute, I'm going to close this company down and I'm going to start a brand new company with hardly anything in it. And we're going to run some transactions so you can see how in the real world to do it. Okay, so let me close this. Okay, and then the last section is your banking section. So in your banking section, you can record your deposits, you can reconcile your bank account, you can go into all your different check registers, your bank registers. So the normal flow of things, this is for us old school people, we really like this because it's like a flow chart. I would start over here that I maybe would want to do an estimate on a project that I was doing. Let's say I was painting houses. I would maybe do an estimate and say, this is how much labor and this is how much materials it's going to take to paint your house. And then I might be doing estimates all day long, but they may never come back to me and say, yes, let's do it. Or maybe you want to haggle over the price. You have to adjust the price some. So an estimate is considered a non-posting transaction. That means that it's not affecting your financial reports. None of your financial reports are affected until that estimate with just a click gets turned into an invoice. And so then it would be turned into an invoice. And so then when the work's done, you would send that invoice to your customer and you would wait for them to send you payment. And so it's just following the flow charts. All of these things are happening in the background. When you go to these different icons, debits and credits are happening in the background. It's debiting this and crediting that. It's happening in the background. So after you receive the payment, it's sitting here on your desk. It sits in an area in QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online if you use it the right way, in an area called undeposited funds. It basically is sitting there on your desk and you haven't taken it to the bank yet. And then when you click on record deposit, it lists everything that is sitting in undeposited funds. And then you would grab as many as you want to and make a big fat deposit. So that's pretty simple, I think. Now up here in the vendor section, all this section on the outside has to do with inventory. And most people, when we have the in-person classes, I ask people, I say, how many people need inventory? And usually some hands go up, but I can usually tell you why you don't need inventory. Mark, I don't know if you'd be willing to share, why do you think you need inventory? What do you do?
We have a retail store.
A retail store. And what kind of retail store is it?
It's a hemp product store. Cannabis.
Hemp product?
CBD.
Okay. And is the inventory right now in your POS system?
Yes.
There's your inventory. You don't need to do inventory in QuickBooks. Your inventory is in your POS system. Okay. You don't want to duplicate work. If you know exactly how many products you've got, so what a lot of people do is they think they got inventory like that. When I go buy merchandise, I'm gonna expense it into a cost of goods sold account. Well, I'll show you an example of that. I'm gonna expense it all the time, but at the end of the year, maybe I need to take inventory and see how much value I put on that inventory that's left in my building. So then I'm going to do a journal entry and adjust my cost of goods sold. I'm going to move some of that expense from cost of goods sold over to an inventory asset. It sits on the other financial report called the balance sheet. There's two financial reports, the profit and loss report and the balance sheet report. And so every time I'm buying merchandise, I'm putting it to cost of goods sold, which is on the P&L report, the profit and loss report, as an expense. I'm expensing. But at the end of the year, I can't say I spent $100,000 on merchandise because I got 30,000 of it sitting on my shelves. So we would do an adjusting journal entry to change your cost of goods sold, lower it a little bit, and say that I have about 30,000 sitting on the balance sheet as an inventory asset. Okay, is anybody else? Turn your cameras on if you can. I want this class to be interesting. Turn your cameras on, talk to me. Turn your mics on and ask me a question. Ron Moore is coming online. I thought. All right, we want to make this class fun. I want you to learn something. Ask me questions. I mean, this is your chance. If you're brand new to QuickBooks, maybe you don't even have an idea of what kind of question you need to ask. But if you've been using QuickBooks or confused about QuickBooks, if you ask a question, others are going to learn from you. Okay. All right. So this was a home page. And so now I'm going to go over to a QuickBooks company, and that's empty. All right. So I'm going to move over to a company called Test Sample Company. Right here at the top, it says Test Sample Company. And you'll notice here, I don't have inventory turned on. So all these icons that I was showing earlier that are up here and down here, they're completely gone because I did not turn inventory on. In desktop, to turn things off and on is usually under this thing right here called Edit and Preferences. Edit and Preferences. This is where you would go and turn things on and off and set things up. In QuickBooks Online, it's under Settings. You go to Settings and turn that on. I want to show you just real quick what QuickBooks Online looks like. So I'm going to go down here to QuickBooks Online. This is the home page of QuickBooks Online. As you can see, it's not like a flow chart, but it kind of shows you some things you need to do. You need to add products and services. You need to manage customers. You need to create invoices. I have no idea why this is not lit up where I can create an invoice. It says something is not right. Please check again later. After I create the invoice, then I would send the invoice, just like in desktop, send the invoice, and then receive the payment. And then I don't see make deposit, but that's the normal flow of things, is that you would create invoices, you would receive the payment, and you would record the deposit. It's a normal flow of business. Now, a lot of people get paid instantly. And in fact, in a retail store, what you would do is you have a POS system that at the end of the day, you're going to get a end of the day report, and you're going to see exactly what you sold. Right, Mark?
Yeah.
True? You're going to see exactly what you sold. And so you would do a daily sales receipt saying you sold this product and this product and this product. You can get as complex or as simple as you want to be. You can just let it all fall under sales, because all that information, all that detail is in your POS system. You know exactly how much of every product that you sold in your POS system. So in QuickBooks Desktop, you don't need to reproduce. Mark, are you using QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop?
Or I'm sorry, desktop.
Desktop. Okay. So in desktop, you would do a daily sales receipt. All right. Let me jump back over here into desktop. Go back into my sample company. Okay. I'll get out of here. So you would do on this flow chart here, just like I was showing you a while ago, would do an estimate, which is a non-posting transaction. Then with a click, I can turn that estimate into an invoice. And then once I've sent that invoice, I would receive payment. But Mark has a retail store, so he gets paid instantly. So at the end of the day, he would create a sales receipt. The difference between an invoice and a sales receipt, you got paid already. And so on a sales receipt, that's how you say, I got paid. And it's a process of filling the sales receipt out. It's basically setting up a bunch of items to track. I have a retail store that sells mulch and gravel and stone and all that stuff. So out of their cash register, they don't have a POS system, but out of their cash register at the end of the day, they get a Z tape that tells them exactly what they sold and how much money they collected and exactly how much sales tax they collected. And then you use that Z tape to enter in a daily sales receipt with grand totals. Like they might say, I sold $500 worth of mulch and $200 worth of gravel and $600 worth of stone, and then you grand total it, and then you would even track how much sales tax your system, your cash register, your POS system collected for you. So, Mark, you might want to. It's really hard to cover all the things that could possibly be, but if you want to reach out to me, I'll be glad to help you. Of course, it's not free, but my email is, and in fact, if anyone is interested in buying QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop and you haven't bought it yet, if you will send me an email, I will send you a link for QuickBooks Online. I can get you 30% off of the published price. So if it's $50, if you go for the essentials and it's $50 a month, you can get it for $35 a month for a full year. And into it, you can find it online for 30% off for 3 months all over the place. But I can get you 30% off for a full year, for the first year, for 12 months. So, but you'd have to write me. So if you'd have to send an email to Jeff, let me put it in the chat. I'm going to put my email. It's Jeff at qbxaccounting.com. And I'll be glad to talk to anybody about which product to buy for free. In QuickBooks Desktop, the best place to get desktop, it's really not worth it for me, but it's softwarediscountcenter.com. I have sent a ton of people to that website, and if you want to buy the QuickBooks Desktop product, softwarediscountcenter.com is the best place to get the price, and it is $360. Now there's a big thing going on right now, and it's going to end on December the 10th. But you could buy QuickBooks Pro 2021, which is still a 3-year product. You could buy that, and it's good until 2024. But starting in 2022, it's now a 1-year product. You've got to buy the product every single year. But if you're really a number cruncher like me, you could buy Pro 2021. It's still available until December the 10th, and it's cut off. But that is a 3-year product. That means it's fully supported until 2024. So a lot of my clients are buying that right now, snatching those up. I'm using the QuickBooks Accountants version. I think it's maybe about $700, but it is a 3-year product. So $700, and it's a 3-year product. But the big selling point of QuickBooks Accountant is that I can have 2 QuickBooks companies open at the same time. I can toggle back and forth. If you have a couple businesses and those businesses kind of communicate with each other a little bit, it might be beneficial for you to buy the accountant's version where you could just, without closing one company and then opening another one, that you could toggle back and forth. In QuickBooks Online, you have to have a subscription for every company, but they will give you a discount. If you're paying $50 for essentials, I'm not sure what the discount is. I mean, I could check into it if you want to email me, but it's not another $50. Maybe it's $25. I don't know what it is, but if you have multiple companies in QuickBooks Online, you would need multiple subscriptions, but in desktop, you don't. I'm sorry for so much information, but it's just so much information. There's so much complexity to the product, and then you talk about payroll. Payroll is a totally different thing. You have to have a payroll license to run payroll in QuickBooks Desktop. If you're a client of mine, I have a license that I can run 50 EINs off of. So I could put my license in your QuickBooks and you can use my license. But you have to be a client of QBX Accounting. And then in QBO for payroll, it's an additional monthly fee. It's built right into QuickBooks Online, but it's an additional monthly fee. So if you go out there, you'll see all that information. So, all right, so here we are in a sample company. So let's just start out really simple here. So I'm going to go and just create an invoice. So I'm going to create an invoice. Okay, so I've got to put a customer's name. So I'll just put my name, Jeff Weathers. And so when I tab over, it's going to say, I don't see Jeff Weathers in your customer name list. And so I'm just going to do a quick add, or I could do a setup. If I do a quick add, I just get the name out there that Jeff Weathers is a customer. But if I do setup, I can put in a lot of information. I can put his address. If I'm going to email him an invoice, I have at least got to have his email. So Jeff at qbxaccounting.com. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, so that's all I really wanted to put on my setup page. So I'm going to hit OK. So I've got the name up there, Jeff Weathers. Okay. Then I got to say, what am I selling, Jeff Weathers? What items? What products and services? In QuickBooks Online, they call them products and services. In desktop, we call them items. Means the same thing. What items am I selling, Jeff Weathers? And so this little sample company that I just throw together, I just did it as bookkeeping, but I'll be glad to demonstrate any company, anybody that wants to speak up and say, what do you sell? I will show you how to enter it, okay? Someone says, I got Desktop Pro Plus for $199 from Best Buy for Cyber Monday. Desktop Pro Plus is, you can get it for $199, but you've got Pro 2022, so that means you've got to get it in 2023, and it's not going to be $199. It's going to be $350. So $199, $350, next year $350. You add all that together, that's a lot more than maybe going and getting Pro 2021 that is a 3-year product right now that you can get for $360. It's all math. It's like figuring out if you're a number cruncher or not. Are there features in QuickBooks 2022 that would make worth buying that is verse 2021? Great question. Yes, there are features in 2022 that are supposed to work, but just like everything else with Intuit, it takes them time to get things working properly. The big feature that is there is that when you go somewhere and you, I'm pretty sure I'm not sure this is working in desktop, but it's supposed to be working in QuickBooks Online also, that I can take a picture of that receipt, that Lowe's receipt, and it will take a picture and convert that into my QuickBooks. It can read that receipt and see exactly how much money you spent at Lowe's and automatically enter that information into QuickBooks. Artificial intelligence is changing everything, but it's not up to speed. Just like in QuickBooks Online, if you have transactions that are feeding into my banking area, you cannot trust anything it does. You have to look very closely And it looks so simple. Let me jump over here to QuickBooks Online. If I go here to this banking section, let's see that one. Let's see. Ah, it didn't let me do that, but let me see if I can. Let me see if I can jump into a QBO company real quick. QBO.intuit.com. I've just recently, I just love QuickBooks because she was trying to go into this test company. Well, bear with me just a minute. Okay. And there is a sample QuickBooks Online company that you can play with. If you Google QuickBooks Online Test Drive, QuickBooks Online Test Drive, there is a sample QuickBooks Online company that you can check out and play with. QBO.intuit.com. Okay. Okay, I'm going into my account. Okay, these are all different companies I've been working in QuickBooks Online. In QuickBooks Online, I'm going to go into this company right here. This is a company that we're in the process of cleaning up. They use QuickBooks Online. They've used it wrong for 6, 7 months. This is where I make the money, is I go and clean up messes. So it's best to get some training at the beginning, start off right, instead of having to pay the bigger bucks to get it cleaned up. But if I go here to banking, these are transactions that have fed into QuickBooks Online. And so I can see my bank account up here, Bank Plus 7187, and I can see all these transactions that have fed into like this holding area of QuickBooks Online. And a lot of people just go down this action list, match, add, but you cannot trust anything it's doing. Now this one, this check right here where he's paying a contract worker, Angela Dorsey, and it says contractors. That one is perfect. That is good. So you can add it. So you have to go line by line and just see if it makes any sense. Like right here, this office expense, it tells me it's Harlan Clark. It's picking that up, but it doesn't have the vendor name right here, the payee name. It doesn't have a vendor name. So on this one, it is in the right category. That's the thing. You've got to set up the vendor name and the category. And so it's got the right category, but it doesn't have a vendor name. And if I don't take the time to enter the vendor name, I can't go to my vendor list and see when I paid Harlan Clark because I haven't taken the time to do it. But if I open it up, I can see it, and I can see the vendor name or / customer name is missing. And so right here, I would key in that it's Harlan Clark, has an E on the end. And I've got to remember to hit add Harlan Clark. And then I'm going to set Harlan Clark up as a vendor. And I'm going to hit save. So now it is correct. Harlan Clark as an office expense. Okay. And I can even create rules to say the next time you see Harlan Clark, do it right. Feed it into the banking area correctly. Have my vendor name on there, have my office expense on there. I can start teaching it rules so next time I don't have to look as closely at this banking area. So if I hit add, it moves it from the banking area, the review tab, over to the categorize tab. When I'm looking at the categorize tab, I should see on my categorize tab, I should see Harlan Clark. Yep, right there it is. Harlan Clark as an expense. I can undo it. If I find the mistake, I can undo it and send it back to review. Okay. But right now, it's moved it to this categorized column in the banking area, but it's also moved it to my register. And that's where you want everything to end up, in my register. And so to get to the register in QuickBooks Online, I would come down here to accounting, or there's a button right here that says go to bank register. But a lot of people come to here and click on my chart of accounts. These are all the different types of accounts that are used, and I've got one bank account set up. And if I view register, that Harlan Clark should be sitting out here. So let me see, right there it is. So it moved it, and that's what these symbols on the right mean. The C means that it cleared through the banking system. That's what the C and the green little symbol means, that it came through the banking system. This one that's right here has not come through the banking system. There's no C and there's nothing here because this was a very complex transaction that we had to do. So I open that up. If I edit that and I look at it, this was where he was paying a mortgage payment, where basically he's paying on a loan, and part of that payment went to an interest expense, and some money went into an escrow account. So I had to manually, in QuickBooks Online, you can't think that everything's just going to be automatic. There's some things you've got to do so when it comes feeding in, it knows what to do. So I had to manually put this in the register. That's what I did. That's why it's sitting out here. But I haven't fed it in yet. It doesn't have the C there. But if I come over here to the banking, if I go back into my banking area, and I look at my for review, I can see that right there, that 546470. Since I've already put it all the way in my register, it says I see a match. I think this is it. Remember, you can't trust anything, but that's right. I can match that. So if I match it, all right, it took it out of for review, it moved it over to categorize, but it also moved it also in the register. I'm going to go over to my bank register again, and we'll have the C now. You can see there, right there, I have the C. That means it went through the banking center to get all the way to the register. And so when you reconcile, here's your reconcile button. You've got to make sure that your register and your bank statement at the bank matches. So every month you have to reconcile your QuickBooks to make sure everything listed on my bank statement matches my QuickBooks. You do that process by starting up the reconcile, and you see the starting balance, and you plug in your new ending balance, and you in desktop you check, and QuickBooks Online, it's more automated. If I start the reconcile up, it would already have checks. If everything is right, and it would tell you how much you're off, and it would tell you if you've made a mistake, and it would even help you fix that mistake. So QuickBooks Online is very advanced, but that's why you're paying the big bucks for it, because it's a time saver. But if you can live with QuickBooks Desktop and do it more in a manual process, I think desktop is the way to go. So it's totally up to the type of business that you've got. I did got a question here. I've moved from desktop to online. There is a learning curve from one to the other. In my invoices, there was a line on desktop to enter a PO number. With the online, I do not have a line for the PO number in Simple Start. That's another thing that you have to consider. If I do go to QuickBooks Online, can I live with Simple Start? Or do I need Essentials? Or do I need Plus? Every one of these versions have different features. This client, it was another client I'm working in recently. They had Simple Start, but they ran a mobile home park. And so they wanted to automatically send all the invoices to all the homeowners on the first of the month. That would not work in online. We had to move them up to Essentials. So instead of paying $25 a month, they have to pay $50 a month to get that feature. If you have a business where you want to track like classes and projects and locations, you might have to move all the way up to the plus version. So, I mean, some people have to move all the way up to the advanced version, which is $180 a month, but it's according to your business. And so, like I said, I'll be glad to help anybody do that. But I'm just going to finish this. I've been putting it in notes and messages, so the emailed invoice has this for the customer. Does this allow me to look up the PO number on my side if needed in the online version? I do not know that answer. I would have to research it. I would have to, if you want to drop me an email, I'll research it for you. But I do not know that answer right off. QuickBooks Online is still new to me, really. QuickBooks Online, I've been trying to like it for 10 years, and I just really just now like it. But as you can see, I have a lot of clients that use it. So, and these clients are not necessarily my current clients. These are people that have problems with QuickBooks Online that they want me to jump in and figure them out. And for some reason, it still keeps the companies up there. I probably got about three QuickBooks Online companies. But in desktop, I probably have 50 clients that I keep up with. Also need to verify the bank statement too on a QBO file. Yes, you do. You have got to reconcile your QBO and your desktop has to be reconciled every single month to know that what you're looking at, and when you look at your financial reports in desktop, that they are correct. All right, let me just jump back over in the desktop. Okay, back in the sample company. All right, so let me sell something. So if I do a drop down here, I'm going to sell, let's say I'm going to sell some bookkeeping services. And so I had set that item up here in my product here, and where that item is located, remember on that home page I said it's the chart of accounts and your items and services. That's what runs QuickBooks. Okay, when we talk about chart of accounts, that's what we're talking about. This item, where does it direct it to on the chart of accounts? Let me show you what we're after here. I'm jump back over into my sample company, and I'm gonna show you a profit and loss report. This is what we're after. All right, hold on. Reports, company and financial, profit and loss standard. Do I want a profit and loss standard report or a profit and loss detail report? Or do I want the other financial report, which is called the balance sheet? Do I want a balance sheet? The one I look at the most is profit and loss standard and balance sheet standard. Those are the two reports that I look at. So let's go look at a profit and loss standard report. Okay, profit and loss standard. And so this is a sample company. This is not a real company. And I'm going to change the dates. Right now, the dates that I'm looking at shows up here in the left corner, it says this month to date. But I want to see for the whole year. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to do the drop down here, and I can change it to this physical year. Okay. It thinks it's the year 2024. Like I said, this is a sample company. So these are my numbers for the whole year. Exactly how much income I took in. So I took in $449,000 worth of income. I have a cost of goods sold of $180,000. So that leaves me $269,000 that now I can do my expenses. The formula is income minus cost of goods sold minus expense. They both get minused out. Your cost of goods sold gets minused out and your expense gets minused out. So it's not that big a deal whether I set it up as a cost of goods sold or I set it up as an expense. Most people do set them up as an expenses, but cost of goods sold are direct costs to you making the money. If Mark was selling product, he had to go buy that product. So product sales, I would set that up as a cost of goods sold. I had directly, if I hadn't bought the product, I couldn't have sold the product. So that is when you determine, should I call it a cost of goods sold account or should I call it an expense account? A cost of goods sold account is direct cost to you making the money. So I can look at this report right here and I can see my income is 449,000, but my direct cost for me to even make that 449,000 cost me 165,000. And that left me 269 that I now I've got to take out all my expenses. And so when you look at expenses, these are things that you're going to have to pay for whether you make a penny or not. You're going to have to pay your rent. You're going to have to pay your utilities. You're going to have to pay the cleaning service. You're going to have to pay your spectrum bill. These are expenses. And so if I'm looking here, I'm at 269, and then I look at all my expenses, which are 156,000. It shows you have a profit of 113,000. That's pretty good. So that's the profit. But an easy way for me to look at this is if I break this down by month. So I'm looking at this whole year, but where it says show columns right here, I'm going to switch this from total only. I'm going to say show it to me. I can show it to me all different ways, but I'm going to say show it to me by month. Then I can see my whole year. In fact, I'm going to grab these three little dots and pull it to the left so I can get my full year on my page here. So let's go back up to the top. So I can see in the month of January, I sold, my income was 24,000. In February, it was 25. In March, it was 25. In April, it was 20. So my grand total is 449 at the far right. But then I can see my cost of goods sold, direct cost to me making that 24,000. You had $8,570 of direct costs, which left you $16,000 to pay all your expenses. So I look here at my expenses. I got 16,000 left, and I look at my expenses in January. My expenses are $12,000. So in the month of January, that's how profitable I was. I made $3,700. In February, I made 78. In March, I made 7,000. So this is a good way to look at your numbers, every month. If you see you have a month where you lost money, then you need to figure out, what do I need to do next month for me not to lose money? Do I have to maybe don't do so much advertising, or maybe cut back on my labor? You have to think, like, what do I need to do that I have a profitable month? Okay. Got a question here. In my tie-dye company, I have dyes and chemicals that are used in the making of product. How would you list those? If you didn't buy that materials, raw materials, you couldn't have made your product that you're going to sell. So I would call that a cost of goods sold account. And by that, what that means is that on my chart of accounts, we haven't really talked that much about my chart of accounts yet, but there's a handout that you should have gotten, and it's I believe it's this one right here. It says all the accounting you need to know. If you have that handout, all the accounting you need to know. And about the fourth page in is a page that says the QuickBooks chart of accounts can accommodate 16 different types of accounts. And so that talks about all the different types of accounts that are on your chart of accounts. Everything is on your chart of accounts. The main ones that show up on the profit and loss report are five of these accounts. There's 16 different types of accounts, but 5 of these show up on the profit and loss report. It's your income, it's your cost of goods sold, it's your expense, it's your other income and other expense. Those bottom 2, other income and other expense, are for strange little things. This is the QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. You're going to have a profit and loss report. You look at your profit and loss report the way that we've been looking at the profit and loss report. But this talks about the different types of accounts. Now, all of those other accounts that are listed on this, they show up on the other financial report, which is the balance sheet. There's two financial reports, the profit and loss report and the balance sheet report. Everything else that is on this list of 16 different types of things that can be on your chart of accounts shows up on the balance sheet. Okay. Let's see. So where was I going with that? So don't even know. So cost of goods sold. So right here. So when I'm looking at my chart of accounts, I see some bank accounts, some accounts receivable, some other current assets, some fixed assets, some accounts payable, some credit cards, some other current liabilities, some long-term liabilities, and some equity. All of those accounts show up on the balance sheet. All of those accounts that I just talked about show up on the balance sheet. Then we get down to the profit and loss accounts. The profit and loss accounts are your income. Remember when we were looking at the report, the profit and loss report, we saw all kinds of different income accounts. And these are the names over on the left-hand side. So you can set your chart of accounts up the way that's going to speak to you. That's going to help you know what your business is doing. So we might have 2 income accounts. We might have 20 income accounts. But this company right here has about 12 income accounts listed. And then they've got about 8 or 10 cost of goods sold accounts. These are accounts that are directly related to you making the money. They're set up as a cost of goods sold account. Remember, they get minus out of the income, so it's not that big a deal if you make a mistake and call it an expense, and you should have called it a cost of goods sold. You can go fix it at some point if you want to, but it's income minus cost of goods sold minus expense. And then when we look at our expense accounts, you can see on the left-hand side, you can see all the different names of all these different expense accounts. And if you're in QuickBooks Desktop, when you started up your company, or if you haven't bought it yet, when you start up your company, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions like, what do you do? Do you sell products, or do you? Everybody provides services or products. It's services and products. Every single business. And the question is going to ask you: do you sell services? Do you sell products, or do you sell both? That'll be the question it asks you. And it asks a bunch of questions to get you a chart of accounts started up. And you can add to those chart of accounts, or you can delete from those chart of accounts. In QuickBooks Online, that chart of accounts is just, we're really trying to teach the real dummy how to do accounting. And in QuickBooks Online, they give you so many options on that chart of accounts that you can get lost. And so usually when I get a client for that, I clean up their chart of accounts. I say, you don't need this sub account under that name. Just, clean that up so it's not so many choices. So it's going to help you a lot. And then down at the very bottom is where the two little strange things happen, like other income and other expense. Other income is like a penny or two of interest that your bank maybe gives you, or maybe you have an asset that you sold. It would go down here at the bottom under other income called gain on sale of asset. I don't see it listed there, but that would be the appropriate name for that. And then under other expense, a lot of times you'll see the category Ask My Accountant. Ask My Accountant is surely in here somewhere. Don't see it in the A's here, and I don't see it, but everybody should have a category called Ask My Accountant, where I can just stick something. So when I'm talking to my CPA or pro advisor like myself, that I could ask a question. Well, where should I put that? Ask My Accountant. Okay, so that's your chart of accounts. Okay, and there's your P&L report. Any questions about that? Turn your mic on, ask the question, turn your camera on. Begging people to turn the camera on. Thank you for Mark and let's see, I know Tanya and Jane and Angela. Thank you for turning your cameras on. The rest of them I can't see. I don't know if you're on and somewhere I can't see you or not. But anyway, if you have a question, turn your mic on There we got Brian just joined us. Great. So I know Brian, you were here a while ago, but if you have a question, turn your mic on or put it in the chat and I will try to answer it. Okay. And there is Jessica. Jessica was here a while ago. All right. So I'm going to go back over to my, and this is in the accountant's version that I can get back to my sample company. All right. So I sold bookkeeping services. And let's say that Jeff Weathers wanted to buy 2 hours of bookkeeping services. So the price is $300. You'll notice here that this item called bookkeeping services is set up as non-taxable. So when you set up your products and services, you flag them. Are they taxable or non-taxable? We usually get in a good discussion on this when we have in-person classes. My rule of thinking is this, is that if you sell services, non-taxable. If you sell products, they're taxable. If you sell products and services, they're both taxable. If I am a washer machine repair person and I just did the repair, no tax. But if I sell washing machines and repair them, then both things will be taxable. In North Carolina, that's the way I understand it. Every CPA seems to have different thoughts, but that's the way I understand it. But this item called bookkeeping services, it's up here under list. This is the menu bar on the top bar, is the menu bar. On the second bar is your shortcut bar, your icon bar. They call it an icon bar. And a lot of you might not be seeing it up here on the second bar. If you're not, it's because under view on the menu bar, if you go to view, I've got it flagged as a top icon bar. A lot of people have it as a left icon bar, and your screen looks like that. It's taking up some real estate. I don't like that, so I would rather it be at the top. So I'm going to go to view, and I'm going to turn my top icon bar back on. Another thing that I have turned on is my open windows. If I turn this off, if I hit that little X right there and turn that off, I'm not seeing my open windows. But this is I'll go ahead and tell you, this is the way to shut down QuickBooks Desktop. You should go to Window, and those windows that were listed when I had it turned on are these two windows right here. But if I was shutting down QuickBooks at the end of the day, I would hit Close All, and it would shut down all my windows. Because if you don't, the next time you open QuickBooks, it's going to have to recall all those windows. It's going to pull all those windows back up. And you don't want to get it confused, get the pointers messed up or anything. So you want to be nice to QuickBooks. Close all your windows, and after you've done that, then you would go to File, and you would hit Exit. If you had multiple companies running in your desktop version, you would close company. You would close this company down, and then you could open up a second company. But so it's determined whether I would do a closed company if I wanted to go into another company, or if I'm completely done, I would do exit. Okay. I'm going to turn my open windows back on because it's very handy. So I'm going to go to view, and right here it says open window list. So I'm going to turn my open window list on. So there's that create invoices, and there's the home button. So those are two screens that we've been to so far. So if I wanted real quick, I needed to get back to my home screen, I could come up here on my second bar and hit home. Or if I see it running over here in my open windows, I can click on home and I'm right back in home. And you'll notice it moved to the top of the list. So you could have 20, 30 screens listed down the side there. You need to jump back into your chart of accounts. Like if I do Control A, that's a shortcut to get to my chart of accounts. And so that is a window that's open there. That shortcut, a lot of people are really interested in that shortcut too. And so that is on the back page of instructor handouts. On the very back page is a lot of shortcuts. And it's very nice. Control I would open up an invoice, which there's the invoice that we were working on right now. So now you can see my chart of accounts move down, and now I'm on open invoices. QuickBooks Online, I mean, QuickBooks Desktop has got some great maneuverability in it. A lot better than QuickBooks Online. There's a secret to QuickBooks Online. And so the next classes that that I'm teaching for the college is going to be, I think it's not until March. But basically, we're going to have a class that's going to be an introduction to QuickBooks. That's kind of like this class, where we're talking about the desktop product and the online product and which product is right for you. Does everybody feel comfortable? Has everybody made decisions? Which product are you using? If you'll put it in the chat, I'd love to know. Are you using desktop? Are you going to use QuickBooks Online? Or you haven't decided? And maybe if you could drop that in the chat and let me know, that would be great. But the class is going to be an introduction to QuickBooks, which is going to talk about QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. The second class is going to be dedicated totally to QuickBooks Desktop. And the third class is going to be dedicated totally to QuickBooks Online. So it's not going to be as jumbled as this one. But Desktop Pro 2020. I love desktop. It's my bread and butter. And this is a great thing about another big selling point on QuickBooks Online is that you could be at your grandma's house and get on your grandma's computer and go to your QuickBooks Online qbo.intuit.com on her website on the browser and get right into your QuickBooks and do your QuickBooks work at your grandma's house or do it on your phone. That's the big selling point of QuickBooks Online. But the maneuverability in QuickBooks Online is not as good as desktop. Desktop, by having the open windows and jumping around and doing this, so it's a trade-off. There's pros and cons to both products. Going to see if I can get a return in 2022 and get 2021. You can return the product for 60 days. In 2021, if you buy Pro 2021 from softwarediscountcenter.com, which is only available until December the 10th or 12th, I think. But you'll save money because basically you're paying $360 and you're good until 2024. A lot of people that have the 19 version right now, they're going ahead, even though 19 hasn't expired because 2021, it won't expire until May the 31st of 22. They're going and buying it because they've crunched the numbers and they can see if I go buy that, then I can get 2 more years at a cheaper rate than if I buy the Pro Plus 2022. Like I say, they'll give it to you cheap that first year, $199, but that second year, you got to pay full price, $350. Okay. All right, 2 hours of bookkeeping services. So I'm going to hit save and close here. Save and close. Okay, it wants to know what my company email address is. Okay, I'll key that in there. Okay. All right. So what that did, and the very first thing it's done is it's started up an account called the accounts receivable account. It says somebody has an invoice out there and they owe you $300. And so that's where that accounts receivable. If I double click on that, I can actually see that accounts receivable register. And I can actually get to that, back to that invoice and open it up that they wanted to buy that. But let's say that also they needed to buy the product. So let's say they wanted to buy QuickBooks Pro 2021. Okay. So let's say they want one of those products. So that product is $360. So now they owe $685.20. I'm not getting into, well, that one is flagged as sales tax. So that one was flagged as taxable. And so then down here at the bottom, I had to say, how much is tax? So I set it up, North Carolina sales tax, as 7%. So 7% of $360 is $25.20. So on products, I've sold $660 worth of product, but I've collected also $25.20 worth of sales tax. Okay, so I'm going to hit save and close. So they owe me $685.20 now. So now on my accounts receivable, I see 685.20. So let's go look at our financial reports. So I'm going to go to reports on the top line. I'm going to come down to company and financial, and then I'm going to go over to profit and loss standard. Okay. So I can see there that 360 is sales income. That's where I sold the product. And $300 was services. So I have sold $660. My sales tax is not even on the profit and loss report because my sales tax, I'm just holding it for the government. It's not my money. It's sitting on the other financial report, the balance sheet report. The $660 is my money. But let's go look at the other financial report. I don't have to close the screen or anything. I could just go back up here to reports again, come down to company and financial, and then I'm going to go to my other financial report, which is balance sheet standard. Okay. So on my balance sheet, it's showing me in accounts receivable is 685.20 because I have an invoice out there that I'm waiting for them to pay me. And in my liability account, I have a sales tax of 25.20 that I need to pay to the government at some point. And then the thing that ties the profit and loss and the balance sheet together is your net income, which that is picking it up from the profit and loss report. Remember on the profit and loss report, that bottom number showed $660 was my net profit because I had gotten the payment of those two things. I'm at 660 because on a balance sheet, your assets equal your liability and equity. This number and the bottom number always match. If they don't match, something's wrong. So they should all match. Like I say, if you use the product the right way, if you use the icons, a lot of people that maybe are accountants or no accounting, no debits and credits, they'll get messed up because they'll try to do the debits and credits. These debits and credits are happening in the background. It's all happening. Every single transaction is a debit and a credit that is happening in the background that you're not seeing. Now, I can see those things. If I go here, there's a lot of ways up here up at the top on my second bar. Remember, this is my shortcut bar. I can go into my customer list. If I go to customers, I can see Jeff Weathers out there. And if I go to my vendor list, I can see my vendors. And so for right now, the only vendor that I've really used is North Carolina Department of Revenue. I owe them $25.20. But let me go back to my customers and let me open back this invoice up. In the background, there's a debit and credit happening. Control Y shows me that debit and credit. I don't want to know that debit and credit. I do not want to know debit this account and credit this account. Somebody might have their mic on here in St. Louis, but so I don't want to know that, but that is happening in the background. I just want to use the icons. So let me go to the home page. I just want to follow the icons. Okay. So I've created the invoice. I don't. Does anybody know whose mic's on? I can't. Call in user maybe 3. I don't know who that is. Call in user 4. Sure how that works. But anyway, so let's see. I lose my train of thought. How can I take a picture of a receipt and report that and import that into Desktop Pro 2021? You cannot do that in Pro 2021. That only works in Pro Plus 2022. It just came out in 2022, but you have to buy Plus 2022, and it's not working that great yet. There's a lot of issues with it. From what I tell on the message boards, I haven't even attempted it, but I hear that there's a lot of problems. Anything like this training, you could Google anything. You can Google on YouTube. You could say, how do I do this in desktop? How do I do this in QuickBooks Online? and you can find any directions, and you have to make sure the directions are for the product that you're using because it's different directions for the different products. Okay. All right. So we have created an invoice. So now the next step is to receive the payment when the payment comes in. So if I say, all right, the check came in, it's from Jeff. Okay. I start typing J. I can see it. When I tab, I see the invoice that's open down at the bottom. I can see what invoice is open. So let's say Jeff Weathers paid, let's say he didn't pay the whole thing. He only paid me $500. Okay, let's say I sent the invoice on 12/2, which is the day. So I'm going to say on 12/3, he brought me the check. I'm going to say it was a check. So on the received payment, I'm saying, like, how did I get paid? Did I get paid with cash? Did I get paid with check? So he brought me a check for $500, and it was check number 2809. And it's hooked. It's got a check mark that it's paying on this invoice, which had $685.20 due. There's only a $500 payment. And it tells me down at the bottom that there's an underpayment of $185.20. I can leave this as an underpayment or write off the extra amount. So I'm just going to leave it as an underpayment. So I'm going to hit save and close. So it went into an area in QuickBooks Desktop called undeposited funds. A lot of people in QuickBooks Online do not use undeposited funds, and they need to. That's where you want, when you get payment, you want to drop it into undeposited funds. You don't want to drop it straight into your bank account. The only reason you'd want to drop it straight into your bank account was if you were taking that one check and depositing that one check by itself. You want to run it through undeposited funds if you're going to take a bunch of checks. I'm going to take a bunch of checks as a big grand total. You would want to drop it into undeposited funds, and in desktop, I'm pretty sure it always just drops it into undeposited funds. They used to have this problem where it tells you how many things you have sitting in undeposited funds. I have one thing sitting in undeposited funds right now because people were leaving it hung out there in undeposited funds, because what you've got to do next is you've got to record the deposit. So when I click on record deposit, it shows me everything that's sitting in undeposited funds. All the payments I've received. I did this invoice, they paid me. I did that invoice, they paid me. I did that invoice, they paid me. I would have 3 things sitting in undeposited funds. And if I had all 3 things out there, I could put check, 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 and come up with a grand total down here at the bottom that's going to match how much I'm taking to the bank. You want it to end up in your register the way it's going to end up at the bank. That's in QuickBooks Online too. If I don't get it into the register, the exact figure, when it feeds in from the bank, it won't be able to match it. So that's very important. I've got to get it in the register exactly the way it's going to feed in QuickBooks Online. Okay. All right. So I've got $500. When I hit OK, this is my undeposited funds area right here, this front screen. But when I hit OK, it's going to move it to the back screen, the screen that is behind this one, which is called my deposit screen. Okay. So when I hit OK, it takes this information and it's going to move it to the screen behind it. So it's moving it from undeposited funds and putting it in my checking account. If I do the drop down right here, I can see all the banks that I have set up on my chart of accounts. I have a savings account. I have a PayPal bank. I have a cash bank. All my different bank accounts, I can choose which bank account I want to put it in. Okay. Hold on. Cancel. I want to drop it into my Fifth Third checking bank account. Okay. I'm moving it from undeposited funds to this. If you get a lot of checks, you can come up here and go print and print a deposit slip. If you've got like 18 checks listed here if you'll buy deposit slips from the same place that you buy your checks from, like Harlan Clark, or the best place to get checks is CompuChecks, COMPU checks.com. If you want to get computer checks and computer deposit slips, COMPU checks.com is the best price that I know of getting these products. But if you bought deposit slips that have your routing and your account number at the bottom of it, when you printed the little slip, you can tear off the little top part, and I'll show you what it looks like. This is a pre-printed deposit slip, okay? And so you can just tear off this top part right here and take it to the bank, and you don't have to fill out a deposit slip, because this has got your routing and your account number on there. That saves a lot of time if you get a lot of checks. If you don't get a big deposits, I wouldn't worry about it, okay? All right, so I'm going to hit save and close, okay? You'll notice that I don't have a 1 no longer, because it's nothing sitting in undeposited funds. It's went all the way to the register. And so I can go into under the banking section, I can go into the register, okay? So if I click check register, I'm seeing all my bank accounts. I see my cash bank, my checking account, my savings account, my PayPal bank. So I say, I want to see my checking register, and I hit OK. So there's my check register, and you can see there is the deposit. If I want to open this back up, I get where it says DEP. If I open that back up, I can get back to that deposit screen. But it has made it all the way to my check register. That's where I want it to end up. So there's $500 sitting in my check register. In QuickBooks Desktop, this whole second bar is your friend. This is your shortcut bar. You can change this bar in any way you want to. As you'll see here, I have set up my register. Let me get out of my register. Let me go to the home page. On my second bar, since I've taken the time to set it up, I click